Yeah, I just did a story on how I got to Montana in 1947 and started working here and wheat farming and it evolved. I wound up raising wheat, and they had a organization meeting here in Baker one time and elected some officers, and they elected me as secretary. That was a poor choice. I never was a good secretary. But anyway, I got involved as director on the state and had it evolved to becoming president of the state growers. And I was appointed on the wheat commission, and I was appointed by a Republican governor, and I was reappointed by 3 Democrat governors, which is kind of an insult. I must not be a threat to anyone. So but anyway, I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is because of the support some of the wheat farmers gave me. It wasn't what I did as much as what we did, and when they supported me. And then I wound up president of the National Wheat Growers, and there was 14 states at that time, wheat growers, and each had a state convention. They had a choice of 4 different people to invite to be speakers. Well, as 10 of the 14 states invited me. I think I was controversial, maybe, that they did that. But everything I did, man, the Montana farmers just supported me wholeheartedly. And when I was elected president of the National, we had a meeting in, I guess, at the end of my term in San Francisco. And man, we had a room full of Montana people there. And before that, I'd invited the National Convention to Billings, Montana, and in January. And I sat back down after I invited them. We was in Texas at the time, and somebody got up and said, "Won't it be cold in Montana in January?" And I thought, man, what am I going to do? So I got back up and I said, "Don't you people worry, we're going to hold it in southern Montana." And they voted for it. And we had nice weather every day they was here. So it was one of the best we'd had. But the Billings paper put a little deal in there about the size of one ad for a garage sale. Is all the information they put out. Here we had people from all the states. We had people from France. We had people from Taiwan and Japan and all over. And the Billings paper didn't give us any notice at all. They put more in the Missoula paper than they did in that. And they thought it was a big town, I guess, at the time. And I don't know why they didn't support the farmers more. But then we had a meeting in San Francisco. They had it in a paper for days. I mean, they even put my picture on the front page of the Now magazine of who was in town. Some of my friends, you know, if you have friends, you don't need any enemies. Some of my friends blew it up to about 4 feet tall, picture this, and they auctioned it off at the banquet, and the money was to go to the building that I'd bought. And somebody said they didn't buy one, they didn't have varmints in their building. So, but the good thing about that, though, is the picture was supposed to fade in 4 hours. We still got one that still hasn't faded, so that was kind of a bad deal. But when I was president of the National Wheat Growers, I'd started more stuff than I'd ever started before. I started a magazine, and I started an associate membership with big companies like BN and Cargill and companies like that. And I said, it's not the money, but I said, let's invite them to our meeting, and their expertise is going to be worth way more than what we charge them dues. And some people objected to that, but they came and they said it's the first time that they'd ever been invited to meetings to participate. And they said, we don't want to influence you, we just want to know where you're going. And one of the chemical companies said that they'd spent 11 years developing a new chemical, and then the farmers had changed their habits, you know, wanted something else. So they want to know where we was going, not influence us. And I started, well, then I wanted to do one more thing before I left, and so I wanted to buy a building. And I called a realtor in, and he said, I said, I want a little 3-story office building. He said, we don't have little 3-story office buildings in D.C. We got big buildings. But he said, I think I know what you want. He said, I think I can find it for you in 3 or 4 years. I said, good, just so we do it while I'm in town this week. I thought he was going to leave, but he he humored me and drove me around. We drove by a building, and I said, there's the one I want right there. He drove a little faster and called me that night. He said, that building has been in litigation for 3 years, and it came out today. And I said, well, we'll take it. And then I called, I didn't have approval to buy that building. Gave him a check for $50,000 to hold it. And back in those days, you did that. You gave people a check, and then you tried to get home before the check did and try to make it good. Well, I think he called the bank. He didn't give me a chance to get home. Found out the check wasn't good. So I had to give him one for $5,000 to hold the building for a week. And then I called a meeting of the state presidents, and I said, you want it or not? He said, you were supposed to, decide whether we wanted the building before you did that. And I said, I know. I just worked on 2 projects. It took 13 years. I did them the right way. I said, this one I did the wrong way, and it's going to take a week. So they didn't know what to do. I said, I paid $850,000 for that building, and I said, somebody came in there willing to pay $500,000 more for it. And the realtor says, you can come in there with make about $300,000 off the deal. And so I told the group, I said, I don't care if you take it or not. In fact, I kind of hope you don't. Well, they don't want their friends to make any money, so but I said, if you vote for it, you got to donate to it, which they did. So and I came back, and most of them did. I remember though going to several of them here, and a lot of them, the farmers in Montana helped with this, and as well as all the other states did. And we put it into a foundation, and then if you got a foundation, then you got to have a project to get attention. So we did. We tried to coordinate research between private industry and universities and the government. And DuPont said, say, can we help you with that project? And I said, well, sure, And well, then Union Carbide said, can we help you? Well, man, our little project turned out to be a little more than we expected. They invited the Rockefeller Foundation in and the Ford Foundation in, and they picked the top research people in the United States. And I read at the start of the meeting, I read a letter from President Reagan congratulating us on the meeting. I'm sure it was one of his aides had done it, but I mean, that was fine. Anyway, we had a fantastic meeting, and they fought for 3 days, and when they got done, they said, let's do it again. Said there's a lot of things we can work together on that we didn't realize, so they really liked that. Another thing I did when I was president is I said, I want to talk to the President of the United States. And they said, you can't do that. Said, there's 40,000 women in here on abortion. There's coal miners are striking, and they told me all the reasons I couldn't do it. And I said, don't you ever tell me I can't do something. Well, they called me. I was back in Montana, and they called me, and they said, say, we got the meeting set up. I figured you could. So I called the state presidents, and we went in to talk. Jimmy Carter was president at that time. And so when I went in, I rearranged the cabinet room, and so that everybody could sit at the head table. I said, that's the way we do it at the farm. We just have a chair for everybody. And then I sat to his left instead of his right, and he looked at me like, are you that dumb, or did you do it on purpose? And I knew I had him. But I said, can I just read a 1.5-minute speech, and then can we visit? He said, yeah, we can visit. We had a real good visit. And one of the other things that I got a chuckle out of, I'd been invited to see President Nixon's pictures of his China trip. Someone invited me over to the White House and said, come over and see pictures of the China trip, and I did. And they gave me a real nice engraved pen with Richard Nixon's autograph on it, and in a box with Richard Nixon's autograph on it and whatnot. When we went to see Carter, he was chewing on a nickel pencil. So he was, you know, some of them Democrats are frugal too. But anyway, we got a chuckle out of him chewing on that nickel pencil, and everybody got a nickel pencil if you wanted to take it with you. So, but anyway, I guess the reason I brought this up is not because of what I did, but because of the support the Montana farmers, and we had Montana farmers support things of this type, and they really backed me on it, and they backed the association. So.